So jQuery is a library. It's a very, very common library that's used. One of the biggest features it offers is all sorts of tools to help you locate elements. Okay? So we can do get element by ID, we can do get element by class name, we can do get element by tag name, we can do all of these, right? But they're still kind of hard and unwieldy to use. So jQuery kind of comes in and says, we're going to make everything shorter. And one of the biggest things it offers is the shortcut that is $. Okay? And what this does is basically allows you to find elements in a whole myriad of ways. Okay? So we do $, and this is essentially a function. It's a global function. That's all it is. jQuery kind of hijacks the $, and makes it its own. Okay? And so what we're going to do is we get to use this for our own nefarious purposes. That's right, I said nefarious purposes. Okay? So we can use this, and on a basic level, it looks a lot like CSS, right? Remember how pound at the beginning of the CSS selector means ID, right? I'm formatting this ID. Dot before selector means I'm looking, this is a class. And then nothing means it's a tag. This uses exactly the same principle. To shortcut everything that we just did with get element by ID, it can shortcut it. So what we do is we simply pass in this, and boom, we get a list of anything without ID. I know it's weird because you can only have one, but, right? So instead of having to do, this is functionally equivalent to document.getById suites. This is functionally equivalent to that. Okay, so we can get class names. First I have to go over here and try to remember what my class names are. Let's see. Let's grab form group. Okay, so I can do the same thing. I can do this. Instead of a pound, we're going to do this. We're going to do form-group. And boom, it grabs every single one of my form groups out of that form on the bottom. Everybody with me? Okay. All right, so next up, you can select tags. If I just want all paragraph tags, there's all my paragraph tags. Okay. Not super difficult. Very, very easy to use. The entire intention of jQuery was to take what was already built in with JavaScript and make it easier for you to use. Okay? So in general, the reason I teach jQuery is that most of what you as backend developers have a tendency to do on the front end, unless you're really trying to get into JavaScript programming or you want to be a full stack developer, you're going to be manipulating DOM elements. And for your homework tonight, that's all you're doing. You're manipulating DOM elements, right? You'll have a page, you'll have certain elements on the page, and all you're going to be doing is probably adding some IDs to all of those elements, and then you're going to go out, you're going to get information from GitHub, and you're going to replace those elements with whatever the new information is, okay? So the jQuery allows for even more granular selection, okay? So you can also do, so if we do this, you can also do a tag. So I'm going to do input, okay? You can do a tag like this, and this will get us all inputs out of that form, right? There's all of the inputs in that form. But you can also do this bracket, which is just a convention for jQuery, so don't feel that this is anything other than what they pick. And I can do name equals gender, and then I get the specific input tags with that name. Pretty cool, right? That's not bad. So you can get the specific input tags with that name. There's also what we call pseudo selectors. So right after here, I can put first. It gives me the first one. You can even have a last. It gives me the last one. You can also put selected, and it gives me if there were any selected. I think it's checked, sorry. There you go. It gives me the one that's checked. Okay. So this is actually pretty cool, because you can effectively go in and pinpoint pieces of your elements, pieces of your form, and say, I want the one that's checked here. I want to pull this one out. Okay? So a couple other quick ones. You can actually chain them. So for instance, say like what I want is I want sweets. So pound sweets again. Except what I want in pound sweets is I want all paragraphs. Space P. There's all the paragraphs inside of sweets. Just inside of sweets. That's it. You can also do form group. Whoa. Sorry. All right, why are you not working? Oh, sorry. There we go. So form, space, and then the class. You're getting all form groups inside of form. Is this all making sense? I know it's a lot on harping about how to find things, but how to find things for you guys is going to be hyper important, because a lot of times that's what you're doing, right? Someone else comes up with the HTML, you put some JavaScript in, you want to manipulate specific elements inside of the page. Okay? There's a lot of actual functionality that you can do with this. Okay, some functionality you can do with this. Let's actually go ahead and we're going to grab sweets. Okay, so sweets. I sworn it was our sweets. Let's see if it works a little bit better if I don't have to do sweets. There we go. So sweets, and we have all of this type of stuff that we can do to it. All right. So in some of it, we could actually do, we can add a class. So if there's a class format you want to add, you can totally add classes to that format, which is really nice given that they're like space separated. So you can totally do that. You can do append, right? Oops. You can do append, and then we can basically say hello there as the append. And there you go, put it at the end. Cool, right? I mean, come on, this is fun stuff. All right. So if we want to change it, sorry, I'm trying to. Sweets val, hello. I don't remember how to actually change it entirely. Sweets, you can also hide, just in case you were wondering, you can totally hide this. It hides the entire thing. Then you can do show again, and it'll show the entire thing. Okay, so we're gonna do sweets, dot. I am going to figure out where this stupid thing is. Let's try that. There we go. It was around there somewhere. So you can do replace with, and it'll actually replace the text. Okay. Now, the key for you guys, especially in tonight's homework, is you have to get very, very, very specific with the element that you actually want to replace. Okay. If you don't, then you can end up actually wiping out like styles and stuff like that. Okay. That's why I'm showing you 47 different ways to actually replace and find and replace any type of text in the page. Okay. All right, so now that we know that, we're pretty much where we need to be. Now there's a couple other things I want to show you real quick. Okay, is a way to filter things out. Okay, so you can basically say $, $sign. We're going to do div. Has, and then you can give it another tag. So any divs that have a P in them. It should have worked. I like that I do it one more time just in case. All right, come back over here.
It just has those brackets there and saying it didn't find anything.
Yeah, because the brackets represent the list and it's an empty list. Okay. I'm mostly annoyed because this should have worked. Okay. Is it what? Oh. Glad you're paying attention. No, that's actually exactly why it is. All right, let's try it again. There we go. Now it works perfectly fine. It's looking for any div that has a P in it, but you're right, you completely replaced that element inside the DOM, so it no longer exists for the remainder of this run. Okay, so refreshing does it because refresh goes out and gets the page again from the server. But you're right, like that's kind of the way, it's kind of funny. Okay, you can do other ones. You can do filter. So give me any divs. That was supposed to work. Oh, sorry. So any divs with class so dot form group. Okay, so there's all the divs that have form groups in them. You can do first on this as well. So like we want to get all paragraph tags. Or we can even do found suites, and then P first. It gives me the first paragraph tag inside of suites. All right, cool. All right, so how's everybody doing? Any questions at this point? You're going to get a lot of practice with this time. Okay, so don't panic. Okay, so we're going to continue on. Now, Ajax. This is a very, very common term. Basically, it is asynchronous. It's asynchronously calling back to the backend, right? And when I say asynchronous, you should remember from your concurrent program, means my program will continue to run even though a thread is doing something in the background. Okay? So if you think about it, if I need to get data, I don't want to hold up the page to get that data. So what I do is I use Ajax. Okay? Now, Ajax is used everywhere. Almost every site you land on that's professionally made, probably not, you know, what, King of Las Vegas, but every page that is anywhere uses Ajax in some form or function, right? A lot of pages do it so they can constantly refresh, right? So you may actually have a situation where it's like, I need to let you know that something's changed. So Ajax is everywhere, okay? Now what we're going to use today is we're actually going to change. And I've uploaded this to the main repository, not class notes, but it's actually got its own repository. Because a buddy of mine in first class actually wrote this to present to the class to show them how to use JQuery and Ajax. He used to work for Wedges, and he did kind of JavaScript all the time. Okay, so it's actually specifically it's in JQuery tutorial. Okay. All right, sorry, I'm just looking for. I already have it loaded up, which is why. Okay. Okay, so what Giphy is, so we used to have Giphy installed in our Slack, so you could just type Giphy /Giphy and would put you do /Giphy and we do a search on Giphy for various stuff. Giphy is just kind of this funny thing. It's like a compendium of all like dorky animated Java or animated GIFs. And so you can get some really funny stuff out of it. Let's just actually go right over here. Okay. And there's so many of them, it takes a while to load. Like super cute, right? Now, Giphy actually provides an API, right? Going back to earlier questions about why the hell do you use APIs. This is a fantastic reason, because Giphy. Okay? But basically, if I want to incorporate this into my site, I totally can do that. Okay? And so what I'm going to do is we're going to use, real quick, we're going to use Postman. I actually, just so you're aware, I changed Postman to the Mac version. Okay? All right, and so the API is this URL. So it's api.giphy.com/v1 gifs search, and then we basically give it a limit. The API key, Sean signed up for it and shared it with his class, and I've been using it ever since. He probably should have kept that more secret, but hey, it's his fault. So they have the API key, and then Q equals is their search parameter. You can find all this by going over their API documentation. After yesterday, you're still working on APIs a little bit, but you kind of have a good idea of what APIs are, go through the documentation, kind of get a feel for how the API documents work, stuff like that. And so this is their API. So if I were to run this, I get back this, right? Now the reason I'm using Postman is because with Postman, I can see everything I'm sending. I don't have to worry that, oh, I might not be doing my JavaScript correctly. I don't have to worry about that. That's not something I have to really panic about. And the reason I don't have to panic about it is because I have it in this nice API format. By the way, I actually really like Mac a lot better. Part of the reason I like Mac a lot better is if you have Postman in Chrome, and you try to switch back and forth between Chrome and Postman, you can't because they're both technically Chrome. Mac OS doesn't realize it. So by installing the full version, I can actually flip back and forth between Chrome and Postman, and just find myself doing it so much that it's just really irritating if I'm in Chrome. So I'm really enjoying this one. Okay? So if we look at it, what we're going to get is we're going to get data. It's a list, right? Square bracket is an array or a list. And then each one is kind of a block of what amounts to a hash map for us. Okay? It's going to give us type, the URL, the bit.ly GIF URL, the bit.ly URL, the embedded URL, any users that have uploaded, the actual, some information about the user. And Tiffany's got a lot of information about her. And then inside you have images. Now, remember what I said? Everything is accessed through dots. So you're going to see a lot of this where I can actually go into this all the way by simply saying like image, or like whatever that the GIF is, dot images. That's right here. See how it says images is the key. Dot images, dot fixed, fixed height, dot width. Like I can keep going down, and I'll explain it again in the code because we're going to actually have to do this. But I want you to kind of see that this is what's being sent back. Now, for us, this is rough. In Java, it can be very rough trying to get the templates to work. In fact, when you're going 3 or 4 levels deep, my advice is just basically let it be a hash map. Like hand it hash map, and it will figure out how to put all of it. You'll have hash maps inside of hash maps. That's about the best you can do in Java. Other languages, though, because they don't have the restrictions we do, they can totally do this really easy. Now, alternatively, you could also go in and basically make, for every one of these key value pair type things, you can make another object, right? And then it can keep parsing all the way down because it knows how to. Unfortunately, it's just one of the limitations of Java. It's just a little bit harder to actually use APIs like this. All right, so what we are going to do is we are going to try to use Giphy. And what I'm going to try to do is on this page right here, I'm going to put them right here. Okay, I'm just going to put 5 images right here. We can do 6, we can do 10, doesn't really matter. If you look back at Postman, it doesn't matter because we give it the limit. We say this is what limit we want, and this is how many pictures we want. Okay, any questions about what we're going to be doing? No? Awkward? Okay. Cool. All right, so let's go back in. Now let's take a quick look. I need to get out of this. Let's take a quick look at what we actually have. I'll close this. Move this bad boy over. Okay, so what this is, just so you're aware, the completed version is already done. So if you just go in, you can look at the completed version. We're going to build it up one by one. Okay, so we're actually going to go through and actually build it up. All right. Okay, so if we look at this, it looks fairly complex, but at the end of the day, this is the head, which all of this stuff is just basically stuff people tell you to put in here. So nothing really complicated here. I've included Bootstrap in just so that I could make it look a little bit nice. If we come in, let's just do this. Okay, so that's all of our JavaScript. Here's the grand total of everything inside of our body. Okay, so I'm kind of breaking it up so you don't panic on the how complicated it is. So div class container, this is just Bootstrap's way of kind of centering and making everything nice. I basically made div ID search area. We have search Giphy. We have an input type of text, ID of search term, a button. Okay, and it's inside of a div. And then the last one is basically a div that will contain all the images. Very, very, very small amount of HTML code we currently have, right? Not a lot's going on here. That means our JavaScript. So now that we have that, and you guys are hopefully a little bit less panicked seeing all that. Oh crap. Beep. That's not supposed to be there. Okay, it's not there. I was in the wrong file. All right, but the same thing, everything applies the same. Down here, we're including JavaScript, which is we're including jQuery and we're including the Bootstrap JavaScript. Okay, so then we have a little script tag right at the end, a lot like our script tag was in that last file I showed you. Okay, so we're going to put all of our stuff in here. Now, the only two things that I've included already, because I didn't want to type it in front of you, because that's just not fun to watch. Okay, is we have the public beta key. This is the key that's going to allow us to actually hit the API. The way they do it is you basically give it a parameter called API_key, and they allow you to hit their API. It's a really nice way, it's an easy way for them to track what you're doing. So if you start hitting it too hard, they can just shut off your API key and then start sending you packing every time you come in.
And how do you get the key?
With Giphy, you just have to go sign up for them. Most of your sites, most of your APIs that are open to the public either don't require a key or are really easy to get a key. And that's all you do. You go in, you get a key. Now, if you're doing something like in Twilio where it's costing you money, a lot more hoops to jump through. But Giphy, I'm just getting GIFs, right? But I'm sure that the API key actually will allow me to do other things like upload GIFs with the user and stuff like that. For this one, all I really expect is API key equals. This is not, I want you to understand that you're going to see all types. Some people are going to want it in a header. Some people are going to want it as inside of the URL. Some people accept both, right? It's all about going in and reading the documentation on the API to determine what they expect in order to authenticate to their API. Okay. Most common I've seen is authorization headers, just so you're aware. Okay. I do actually know how to do those now, so if you run into that problem, I can totally show you how to do authorization headers to get to an API using REST template. It's actually not that bad. You just can't use your normal. You can't use your normal post for object or get for object and get for post for object. Those aren't. You're not going to be able to do those. You're going to have to use something called exchange, which is much more in depth, but not all that difficult. Okay. All right. So we've got these two lines. They're both strings. Now, what do you notice is my friend who wrote these two lines, he has single quotes around it, not double quotes. In JavaScript, it doesn't matter. Okay? In Java, it very much matters. In JavaScript, it doesn't matter. Okay? In general, what you do is you, like for instance, in the style guide for Python, they just basically say it's the same thing as true. Single quotes and double quotes are interchangeable. They basically say use whatever you want, but use it consistently throughout your program so that everybody is using the same thing. Okay. Questions at this point? There is a CSS section here, done with 4 spaces. There is a CSS extension or CSS file in here. It just basically goes through and formats everything inside the HTML file, so nothing too exciting. All right, hold on. Okay. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab the area that our images are going to go into. The only reason I'm doing this at the beginning is I just want a handle on it so I don't have to grab it every time we're looping through the results. Okay, so we're just going to grab this ID using jQuery. So we're going to say var, call it Giphy image area equals, remember just jQuery found. We're going to say, in fact, because we have it in the same file, it's able to actually autocomplete, and so it's just Giphy image. Okay, so all we do is we grab that element and we store it inside of a variable. This will allow us to add to it, to append to it, to do whatever we want to it later on inside of the code. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to grab, okay, so if we're walking through this, right, if someone has entered a search term, we want to grab that search term, correct? Okay, so let's think of it in the JavaScript way. This right here is the box that has a search term, correct? So with JavaScript, we need to grab the box and then grab whatever the text is out of that box. Why there's T at that. Okay, so we're going to grab whatever there is out of the box so that we can use it, right? Now, the interesting thing you're going to see about this is there's a form here, but not really, right? There's no action. There's no form tag. We have a form on our page that we're using entirely in JavaScript to do something, okay? This is a point I need you guys to understand, because when we start talking about Stripe, this is how Stripe gets around getting, or this is how Stripe gets you around getting sued. Stripe uses the same process. You have a form, but your JavaScript is what's pulling all the information out of the form. Okay? And so that's what's going to happen here. We need to grab what's inside of that search term text box so that we can actually do a search on Giphy for the search term the user wants. Okay? So the way we do that is actually really simple. I'm going to create a var search term. Okay, and then all we have to do is we just have to find it. If I can find it, hold on. Where am I? Search term equals, because it's an ID, we can go directly to it. Search term. Okay, and then we can get .val, and that'll pull the value of it. Okay. However, this isn't super useful right now because if it just grabs the value of it once, that's not going to help us. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you events. Okay. Events are really nice, and basically what they do is they allow you to say when something happens, call this code. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to comment this guy out, / the comments inside of JavaScript. Okay. And I'm going to create an event. Now, the first thing, in order to create an event, I have to put the event on something, okay? Step one in any event is I have to pick out the thing I want the event to be on. You notice how many times you've already used the element selector, right? Like, you're always going to be using element selectors. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an event on this button. So when someone clicks this button, that's when I want to trigger most of my code. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find that button. Okay, so I find the button like that. Now what I do is dot click. Okay. Now, on click is older school. I think click is actually in JQuery. Okay, so we're placing an event on it. I also think you could put on click directly inside of the element inside of HTML. So back in the day when you would just use JavaScript, it was on click equals and you would basically tell it which function to call. Now this is kind of the standard when you do events. Okay, so normally this is the line, but inside of here, what we end up doing is going to look a lot like our Spark. It looks like a Lambda. Okay, so this is good. You kind of have experience with Lambdas. Believe me when I say that my students at Violin have a much harder time with this. Okay, so click, and then what click is expecting is what we call a callback. For you, it's just like a Lambda. All right, it is a function that we're going to pass to click that basically says, hey, when anybody clicks this, I want you to run this code. But what this means is this code will not run when the program first exits. When the page first comes up, it's going to go in. It's going to say, okay, this code just goes to this click index. Okay, so what we're going to do is this is the way you do the Lambda type functionality inside of JavaScript. It's function. We're going to pass it E. Okay. Now all of this is laid out inside of documentation. All E is it is an event. Okay. So the event normally you just kind of ignore. You don't really do very much with it. But like an event could be like, say you're in the desktop, it's like something clicked. Well, the event might contain the XY coordinates of the mouse at the time of click. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an event on click for that button, and inside of there. Okay. Inside of there, the first thing we're going to do is this. Prevent default. Okay. Now, what this normally does, you don't technically have to do this because the button's not doing anything. The button's just kind of sitting there, right? Button ID, it doesn't have a type. It's not going to submit anything. There's no form that it's in. But generally what you do is you do prevent default. So, and say like the button was inside of a form. If I click submit, what happens? Normally, just what happens when I click submit on a form? It submits that form to the next page, wherever the action is, right? Now, if I need something in that form in JavaScript, and I let it do the default action, then before the JavaScript ever finishes executing, the page will have already moved to the next page. What this does is this basically says, for this event, I want you to prevent whatever the default action is going to be. So if it was going to go off to a different page, if it was going to pop up something, it's like, don't do any of that. Let me handle it. So that's all prevent default does, is it stops forms from submitting 99% of the time. Okay? So we're going to prevent the default, so it won't try to do anything weird like submit a form, even though there is no form there. Okay? And the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to take this area, because you can imagine that this page is always going to be there. Okay, so we prevent the defaults. Then what we need to do is we need to go in and we need to blank out that area. Okay, right? Because if we submit once, what happens? Well, it populates the area. If we don't blank out the area, it'll just write on top of it, right? In fact, if we want, what I'll do is I'll write out this code real quick. We'll comment it out so you can see what happens once we have it working. Okay? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do, remember, this is our Giphy image area. We already have it. So we can just do Giphy image area. Whoops. Sorry, I got used to the dev tools where you just hit right. Okay, so Giphy image area dot HTML. Okay. Well, that should work. We'll try it anyway. Okay, and we're just going to set all the HTML to be nothing. Okay, so it'll blank out that. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to like get rid of, I'm going to comment it out for now. We'll come back to it in a few minutes. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to grab the search term. So we'll actually grab this. Okay, because someone has clicked, right? At this point, someone, we know because this is an event, someone has clicked that button. We're now in here. So we prevent the default. We grab the search term. Okay, .val grabs the value of that box. So now we have the search term. The first thing we need to do is check to see if the search term is even populated, right? You can click the button, but if there's no search term, we can't do anything. So we're going to do if search term dot length is greater than 0. And most of our code's actually going to be inside of here because basically if they didn't put a search term in, we just don't care, right? Like it doesn't matter to us. All right, so the next part of this is going to get a little bit crazy, okay? All right. What I'm about to do is Ajax, okay? This is how jQuery does Ajax. Now, believe me when I say this is way simpler than the way it used to be. I did Ajax when it first came out, and it was a nightmare, okay? jQuery tries to make Ajax much simpler, okay? Now, the way you do an Ajax call is you're going to basically say, go get this URL. When you are done, run this function, okay? So now we're 2 levels in, right? Because right now, this entire block of code right here, this function is just simply being passed to that event handler, right? On click, run this. Okay, so we're already in a Lambda, or callback as it's called in JavaScript. We're already in a Lambda. So the Ajax requires you to do another Lambda, okay, inside of it. Now this goes back to what I was saying with Node, where you have like method functions inside functions inside functions, okay? So just be aware, it may look a little confusing, but I'm gonna walk through each of it. Please, please, please ask questions. Because if you don't ask questions, this is what you're gonna be doing for tonight, right? You have to go out to GitHub and get the information that you're looking for, okay? So what we're going to do is we're right here. So if the search term is greater than 0, the length is greater than 0, I want to call Giphy and get image information. Okay, so the way we do this is $.ajax. Okay, inside of there, we're going to create an object. Now this object looks remarkably, the object is nothing but a key value pair. So don't get tripped up on it, just key values, okay? And so the first key we need is we need to give it method. And we're gonna give it get for the method, because that's what we wanna do, right? We wanna get this information. Why are you, unneeded comma? No, I bet it's needed. He told you it was needed. All right, URL. Now you'll also notice that we don't need quotes around these, right? The keys don't necessarily need quotes. So then we're gonna go to URL. And remember, we already have URL right here. So we're gonna do base URL plus whatever our search term is, because notice how we basically leave off the base URL with Q equals right here. So we're just going to concatenate the search term to it, and we'll just pass that along. Okay? All right. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say data type JSON. So now the system knows JSON is what's going to be returned, so it can process it accordingly. Now, in the newer versions of jQuery, which you can actually download, you can use for your homework tonight if you want, they actually have a .get, which takes care of most of these methods, and you just hand it a URL. Okay? But you don't have to. You can totally use .ajax. .ajax is just more of the full version. It's just not a shortcut. The get is just a shortcut. Okay, so we do that. Okay, so now we have Ajax. The next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to do dot done. Okay, and what done does is done says, when this processes, this is what I want you to do. Okay, which means we're about to put a function inside of done, which is exactly where we're already in a function. We're going to put another function in. There's no reason you can't do that. There's nothing wrong with it, and JavaScript is very, very common. So we're actually going to come in here. We're going to say, we're going to open a new function. Function. Okay, and I'm going to say Giphy results is what's coming back. Try and get my code clean. It's just indenting all weird. All right. All right, so this is the bulk of our program in the sense that this is what we're going to do in the event that everything works right. Okay, so really focus on this section because this is where things actually happen. This is where we take data that's being passed back and we actually put it into our page. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to do console.log, and I'm only doing this so I can make sure that something's happening. Giphy data. Okay. So next up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do var images equals, and all I'm doing is grabbing Giphy results and saying dot data. Right? That's why. Notice how it sends back a block of JSON. What's the first key in there? Dot data. Okay. All dot data is a list of their Giphy objects. Does that make sense? So that's why I basically I'm taking this Giphy results right here, the Giphy results, which is that whole JSON block, and it's actually already been converted into a Java object, and I'm saying Giphy results.data is all of our images. So I'm not going to worry about any of the metadata. I'm not going to worry about the count. I'm not going to worry about anything else that is inside of that top level block. I just want the list of images. So that's how I'm doing it. Giphy results.data. Does that make sense? Okay. Talking will help you guys stay awake, so you may want to respond a little bit more. Okay. So now that I have the data, first thing I'm going to need to do is check to make sure there's even any images. So we're going to say if images dot length. Now remember, because we grab dot data, this is another really super useful thing for Postman, is I can totally look at the data and it's just statically there waiting for me. So as I'm making these type of decisions inside of my code, I can totally get in here, okay? So as I'm looking here, data is a list, right? Or an array. So data is an array because it's got the two square brackets. So all it's saying is data, this key, data, is a list. So what I can do is I can actually use .length on it just like I can use on any other array inside of JavaScript. So that's what I'm doing here. I really hope this is recording. Hold on. Yep, we're totally recording. Okay. Okay. So as long as images.length is greater than 0, I'm sorry, if images.length is 0, what I want to do is I'm actually going to just put there are no results found. Right? I'm just going to throw that in there so we know something happens. So Giphy image area, right? That's what we called it. HTML. We're just going to say we'll do an H4. No results found. We'd be snarky. In all of the internet, we found no results for this query. What are you typing? Else. That's how else looks exactly like our else. No real scary part there. So here's what we're going to do. in the event that there are results, we're going to loop through it. Okay? Now, if you think about this in Java, you would just you would have like an array list or an array, right? You would say for image colon, and then you would basically have the list of images. You'd loop through it, and we would just put it in there, right? That's all we're going to do here. Now, the way you do for each is a little bit strange in JavaScript. For each in Java doesn't seem strange to me at all. For each in JavaScript is a little bit weird. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to take the list itself, images, dot, for each. Okay? So images being a list is not a for loop, it is a for each. We're going to do something. Okay, it's like a method on the actual images on the list itself, which is kind of weird, right? But still, it's useful. So you do for each. Okay. What does for each take? A callback. So we're going to do another function. This is going to trip you up. I know it's going to trip you up. Just accept it and move forward. That if it requires a callback, just hand it the function. Now, what this for each is actually going to do is it's saying, every element inside of this list, I'm going to use this code to call it. Or I'm sorry, I'm going to call it with this code. Okay? So our function, we're going to do another function. We do function, image, because that's what it's going to do. It's going to pass us an image for each and every one in here. Now that we have the image, I can say console.log log looping over images. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to set up a bunch of variables so that we can grab the information. So the first one is var. Now if we come over here, what are the things we need? Because we're now in here. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're now in this block right here. Hold on. Oy. Yeah, this whole block is all one image. So we're in this block right here. So some of the things that we're going to need is we're going to need the height. So if we come in here, we need to figure out which one we're going to use. So fixed height still, fixed height. I'm just going to use fixed height. That way all the images are the same height across the rows, right? Just so it looks uniform. You can pick whatever you want out of here. It's your call. I'm just doing it this way because this is the way we did it in class. So we're going to do fixed height. So the first thing I need to do is go back over here, and I'm going to do var image URL equals images. I'm sorry, image dot. Okay. So this whole thing is image dot images, right? I need to go to this key to get into the images. So we're going to do dot images. Dot. Come back over here. Fixed height is the key. Fixed height dot URL. Dot invalid. Okay, does everybody understand that? This is how you access the different keys at different levels of this object, okay? So your first one was image. That is, if you'll notice, in our function image is passing us image. Each image in images is going to call this function and pass us that image. Then, so we say image.images, right? Because image itself is that big, huge block of data. So we do image.images, which is that subsection of the block of data that has all of the images, the different images for the different formatting you can possibly want to do. And then we do fixed height, which is another key inside of there that's fixed height. Okay? The good news is a lot of this is actually more complex than you're going to be doing in your homework. But just understand that when you're going through these objects that have been converted, you know, like, because JSON has a tendency to say, here's a big object, here's smaller objects, and then inside of them there's even smaller objects. the way you get to them inside of here, unlike Java, which is .get, and then you give it a key name, this one is just straight up dot, and then the name you're trying to get to. Dot the name. So you're basically walking down the path. Image is the object. Images is a piece in the path. Fixed height is inside of that, and then URL is inside of that. And the URL is basically an actual string.
Can we see the postman?
Okay, so data is the thing we pulled. It's a list. We're doing for each on everything inside of this list. So this right here, all the way down to here, is all one image object, one result. Okay, so we said, so this right here is our image, right? So the for each passes us one of these blocks. And then we say dot images, because we're looking in here, right? That's the key, dot images. Then fixed height is what we want. So then it's dot fixed height. Then inside of there, there's a URL, which is our final destination that we actually want to pull out. Okay? Now, any of this could work. Say like we wanted to get the user's name, so we can attach their name to it. It would be image dot user dot avatar URL, or I'm sorry, display name. Okay? That's how you would make that happen. Does that make sense? I know the syntax is a little bit strange for you guys right now, but it's not all that difficult. And the good news is if we come in and we actually look at some of the stuff we had for yesterday, for GitHub, let's just go through a quick GitHub example if I can. There it is. Okay, so these are all actually, this is a repo right here, I think. All right, one second. History, pipe, grep, curl. So let's actually just look at me as a user. Okay, so if we had the user, then it's really easy, because you would grab the user and you would basically say, you know, whatever, user.login, and that's all you would do, because the key is login, right? But if we wanted to do something a little bit more complex, repos. Okay, so this is a list, right? And here is one block. There's one repo, okay? So it would be, say, user dot, or I'm sorry, it would go through and we'd do a for each on each repo, right? So then it would be repo, and if I wanted my username, it would be repo.owner.login, right? I'm just walking down these key value pair objects until I find what I'm looking for. All right. Hopefully that helps. Okay, so the next ones are actually very much the same like that. We're going to do var height, image.images, .fixed height, .height, var width equals image.images, .fixed height, .width. The nice part about this API is they actually resize the image. Instead of you just saying I'm going to squish them down and then they all look weird, it actually gives you all of these are different image sizes, which is kind of nice. All right. Well, look at the data. Fixed height is right there. It's a block. It's not fixed height. It's a block of images that are fixed height images. Yeah. Basically, if you read the documentation, it's basically saying you can be assured that every image we send you will be the same height. So that you don't have to worry about, oh, this image is really tall, this image is really small, and then all kind of weirdness. Okay. All right, so now that we have all the data we need, because really all we're going to do is create image tags, right? We're going to create image tags and we're going to insert them into our code. All we're trying to do. So in order to create an image tag, it's pretty simple. Var image. Now I haven't shown you this yet. If I do this, and then inside of here, okay, I'm going to use single quotes, and I'll explain why in a second. And inside of here, I actually create an image tag, the actual tag. It will just create it out of the blue, and you'll have an image tag. It won't be anywhere inside of your document. It's just an image tag you're holding on to. Okay. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you why being able to do single and double quotes is super useful. Okay. So if I do this, and then I say image class equals Giphy. Notice how this is a problem. Opening quote, but Giphy also needs quotes. Now you can do that, escape it. Or, oops, what I can do is I can use whatever the quotes I'm not using are, and then that works fine. Okay. So in other words, if you have single quotes inside of the string, you can use double quotes in a dynamically typed language. You can use double quotes around the string. And then this is really good for apostrophes, right? Nigel's, Nigel's laptop. Double quotes allow you to put that in because a single quote isn't a delimiter inside of that string. But if you do double quotes around the string, and then you said, he said, double quotes, hello, double quotes, that's a problem because we're using those to say that this is a string. Okay, so you can flip them back and forth between in any language where it doesn't matter which one you use. If you use single quotes, then the double quotes don't really trail off anything because it's not a delimiter. Does that make sense? It's just kind of a quick tip for you. You're probably not going to use it a whole lot because in Java, it's a big deal. Like if you do a single quote around a string, it will just not work because a single quote denotes a byte, whereas every other language it doesn't care. Okay, so we do var image and we create the image tag. Now the good news for you guys is that the exercise under completed has large blocks of comments that explain every single line in the entire thing. So if you don't want to watch the video, read the completed version of this, and it's got lots of information. Like walk step by step through it, and it's going to help you out lots. Okay? So we're going to go ahead, and now that we have the image tag, we can do really cool stuff. And I'm going to show you a couple more things you can do with jQuery when it talks about manipulating tags, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this new image, I'm going to do .adder, okay? And what .adder does is it allows me to add a tag. Now you notice right here, that image tag doesn't do anything whatsoever. There's no source, there's no height, there's no width, there's nothing. It's just image in a class, that's all it is. So I need to add a source attribute to this image. And that's what adder does, is it allows you to add or manipulate an attribute. Remember, in HTML, this is the tag. Anything that is something equals something inside of that tag is an attribute. We're going to do adder, source, and all we're going to do is we're going to give it this image URL. And what this will do is this will actually insert that source directly into that image tag. So then we'll have source equals whatever that is. So it's a really nice convenience method to programmatically insert stuff instead of having to say, okay, here's my image tag, find the first blank space, then insert this into that blank space, right? You don't have to do that. It will do all of that automatically for you. And in the event that the image tag already has a source, this will overwrite that source to the new URL. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're also going to do image.adder. Okay, and we're going to say height. We're going to pass it height. Image.adder. Say width. console.log. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to print the new image tag. That's all I'm doing. I'm printing it to the console so we can make sure that the image tag is what we expected it to be. Okay, and then at the end, remember, I'm just holding on to this image tag. It doesn't exist anywhere in our DOM. I just created one and manipulated it. Everybody kind of get that? Create one, then manipulate it. Now I have my image tag. What I want to do is I need to add it to the DOM. So I have to find a place to put it in the DOM, and we know the place we want to put it. It's right here. We want it to go in Giphy images, right? Well, we've already saved it to Giphy image area. So we're going to go Giphy image area dot append. We're just going to hand it our image tag. Okay, and that pretty much completes the code, right? So what we're doing is we're looking at, we grab the image area we want to manipulate. We go in, we ask to call out to the API. We take the results of the API. We say for each result, I want to add it to the image area. So now that we have this, let's go back over here. Okay, I'm going to refresh. I'm going to do cats, search Giphy. Okay. Now we have all these cats, so let's go ahead and we're going to do kittens, or dogs. Okay, notice how it didn't change? All the dogs are down here. Okay, so the reason is, remember what I was telling you? Because this, every time we get one, we want to clear this out. So let's save it, and we're going to go back. We're going to go refresh. Dogs. There's your dogs. Why are we getting so many of these things? Oh, I didn't put a limit on it. There we go. Dog surfing. A little bit confused how this comes up. I like the laughing baby wolf. All right, so our Giphy search now works. Now, note, the things that kind of key things to notice here, we never reload the page. Well, we reload the page every time we make a code change. We don't reload the page when we do a search. All it's doing is going out on its own with JavaScript, getting new data, and populating it inside of the page. That's it, that's all that's happening. Okay, so what I need you guys to do is I need you to make sure that you're really thinking through what you have to do. Okay, your code is not going to be fantastic, I promise. It's going to be a little bit messy, but it's okay. The last thing in JavaScript you need to understand, you already know how to do it as a function. Okay, so you can actually set functions. Now, the thing with functions, and the reason you can actually pass these around is that they're what we call first-class citizens, which means a function is an object like anything else inside JavaScript. Java, this is not the case. Okay, if you have a method, other than lambdas, you can't pass a method. Right? So if you have one of your controller methods, you can't pass that controller method somewhere. You can only do that with lambdas, which are a special type of function. Python, Rail, Ruby, and JavaScript all have functions as first-class objects, which means I can literally set a function to a variable and then call that variable like it's a function. And that's the reason why callbacks are so easy inside of JavaScript. You're just passing it in a function, saying, here's a function, do this, okay? So, tonight's homework, wow, a little early. So tonight's homework, you're basically going to be using GitHub. And you're going to be populating all the information inside of the system. Okay, you're going to populate it using the GitHub API. Okay, most of it shouldn't be difficult. Probably the most difficult one you're going to have is the repos. You're going to have to call out the repos. You're going to have to figure out how to loop through the HTML. You're gonna have to delete some HTML to make this work, which is okay. Okay. So that's your assignment for tonight. Are there questions about JavaScript or jQuery in general?
So is jQuery something that we have to install, or it's just like a?
Well, you've already been installing it. If you put Bootstrap in any of your assignments, it requires you to put jQuery in. So you're not installing it, it's a library just like Bootstrap is. Okay? So if you look at the code, it's just an include. You're just including it inside of your code. That's all you're doing. Okay? And then when the system runs, when the page actually loads up, it hits that line, pulls in that JavaScript, and then effectively executes whatever that JavaScript file is. So one thing to be forewarned about is try to be very judicious as to how many files you directly include when it comes to JavaScript. Right? It's a little bit harder to do anything to your web page. Say like we include Bootstrap. It's really hard to really screw up your web page unless they screw up their file on their end. But malicious code with JavaScript is really easy. Because say like you include something. So like you're including jQuery. I get into the jQuery repo. And what I do is I basically add a little bit of lines of code that does an AJAX call to my server. And so every time a page loads, it reads in every form element and its name and basically sends that to my server. Okay? Well, what happens when someone is on a checkout or a credit card page, or your login page has that file on it, right? Now all of a sudden, I am getting posts, AJAX posts, back to my server with your username and password. Every username and password for your entire website. So one of the ways to avoid this in general is that you can basically download jQuery and serve it from your server. So you at least are in control of those files. You don't have to worry about someone else being in control of those files. But yes, that is the way you do it, is you essentially include it. When it's included, it executes that code if there's anything to execute. Which there is inside of jQuery. They execute a lot, actually, because they have to set up the $ parentheses inside of your global scope. Questions?